Most of us are taught just to be consumer, and that's it. We're never taught to do anything else. If I have cash, I need to spend it. I have $500 in my bank account, I gotta make that zero. If I have $1,000, I gotta spend it. Because we think, oh my God, if I had 10 grand, I would go on this nice vacation. If I had 50 grand, I would buy this car. We think in terms of, it's that consumer mindset of, if I have this money, I need to spend it. But this is where we have to break out of that and understand, what can we do differently? And instead of just spending all of this money, and it's much more difficult now because of the higher cost of living, but it's so much more important now than ever, where you got to create this margin. I call it like an equation where, you know, your wealth is really, you take your income minus your expenses, and that's equal to your investments plus your savings. So you take your income, whatever money you make, you subtract your expenses, your houses, your home, your clothes, your car, whatever your expenses are. And if you have some money left, either this money is going to be saved or it's going to be invested. Well, if you have some money left, you're already, you know, doing something that a lot of people are not doing. You're more than the majority of people. Right now, I just read a study yesterday. 7 out of 10 Americans across the board are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of Americans that are making $250,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. It's not how much money you make, it's what you do with the money you make that is so important. And so now, if you have a buffer, you're already better than the majority of people. Now the question is, what do you do with it? Well, we're taught, save it. Save all of it. So your investments are zero, and your savings, you're trying to grow that, thinking that you're gonna become wealthy. But you're never gonna be able to outsave inflation. Your savings are literally making you poorer each and every day. However, you don't want to just not save any money. You got to be strategic with it. What I like to say is, there are 3 reasons why you should be saving money. You save money for an emergency, have somewhere between 3 to 12 months worth of expenses, depending on your risk tolerance. Save money for a big purchase. You want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you need some cash to do that. Save money for an investment. If you're not saving money for one of these 3 reasons, you are saving your money the wrong way, and it's making you poorer each and every day. Talk about retirement. We're about to face a big retirement crisis, because traditionally retirement was what people like to call a 3-legged stool. You had your Social Security, you had your pension, and then you had your own investments or your savings, what a lot of people like to do. Well, pensions are something you only read in history books anymore. They're a thing of the past. So those don't exist anymore. Social Security is running into a very, very, very big dilemma, because right now, if you are, you know, under the age of 45, the Social Security money that you're paying isn't gonna go to fund your Social Security income. It's going to fund somebody else to retire, because the Social Security program has much bigger expenses than income. And so it is on the path of being completely dried up, of just running out of money. But for me, it was a hustle, right? It was the only way that I knew to kind of start making some money. And so it's how you start and you learn. And each one of the things that you kind of do, you're going to learn something new, and you're going to be able to apply that to the next thing. And it really is that shift. You know, I call it the minority mindset, thinking differently than the majority of people, because it's doing something different. You're going to see, like, holy cow, things can and will go wrong. So just anticipate it, because it's your real life tuition. You got to be willing to learn. And you know, it's a price to pay. And it's one of those things where, you know, just like with entrepreneurship, everybody wants to be successful as an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be rich. But how many people are going to be willing to get punched in the throat and keep going, keep getting back up, and keep doing it? It's very difficult, which is why, you know what? Not everybody should be an entrepreneur. Try it, but it's not for everybody. But everybody can work to own this equity, right? This ownership, these assets, and everybody needs to. You have to be willing to work hard, but you also have to be willing to work smart. I can't stand when people say, work smart, don't work hard. You have to do both. Because if you're not willing to work hard, your smart working is effectively worthless. You have to be willing to apply both together. And I had none of this, you know, financial education, right? For me, it was, Dad, I want to go invest in real estate. You're stupid, go become a doctor. You know, I had to do all my entrepreneurial stuff in secret. My parents didn't even know that I was doing this business stuff until I was on the news. I was running a different sock company. And this is now, you know, a couple of years after. And we were doing well, and we got featured on the local news. Now my parents got a call from a family friend, And they said, oh, we saw your son on the news. And my parents were like, oh God, what did he do now? And they're like, no, he has this company, he's doing really well, they're growing. And my dad was like, what? And so now, you know, he sits me down and he's like, what the heck is going on? And that was the first time they were like, okay, you can actually do something with this. For me, it was like, I understood what I wanted. I knew that I saw this like really, I wanted to achieve success. And I knew I was doing it for good intentions. I knew I didn't have like bad intentions with what I wanted to do. But the question was, you know, how do I get there? Because it was like, if I try to convince my parents, it is like, it's going to be extremely stressful for me. I'm going to stress them out. But I was like, you know, this is why I have to figure it out. It was a mission because one, I wanted to give back to my family and myself. And second, I wanted to do it because I wanted to prove a lot of people wrong. And I remember when I used to talk about this, everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't do it out of spite. Don't do things because you want to prove someone wrong. I was like, you don't understand. You don't get some of the, you know, the things that you hear, the things that you see. And sure, you know, maybe it can't drive you forever, but it can take you, I mean, that pain of seeing the things that people say to, because, you know, in between, I started a sock company. And when I was doing the sock business, this is when, you know, people started to be aware that I was an entrepreneur, and I wasn't like super successful. I was doing okay. And that's when I got on the news. But, you know, just think about this. I was supposed to be a doctor. Now here I am selling socks on the internet. And everybody is like, oh, so you left, you know, this idea of becoming a doctor. Now you're just selling socks. And, you know, hearing that for years, it's like, one day I'm going to have your kid want to work for me. And that was like in the back of my, I never said that, but I was like in the back of my mind, your kid's going to want to work for me one day. And it's like that driving force where I knew I'm going to prove this person wrong. I'm going to make this person like really like see that, hey, I am worthy. I can do something. But it takes a lot of work, you know, going back to that. But with anything, being willing to try, being willing to take risks, being willing to make mistakes, and being willing to learn from it. Because, you know, like I said, you know, for me, I was willing to be dumb or stupid. I never saw that risk until more recently, because for me, it was just like, I know this is what I want. And so the risk really was never even on my horizon. If I had a business idea, I would start it like that same night. Because for me, it was like, I want to do this. I want to figure it out. Books were kind of giving me an idea. My teachers weren't teaching me this. I don't know who to turn to. My experience was my teacher. That's how I learned how to be an entrepreneur, is how I learned to start investing. That's when I started learning about money, because the whole issue with the money stuff, I mean, this is something that we're never, ever even remotely taught about. And it's now becoming a real pressing issue. Because for me in the beginning, it was just figuring it out. I went from business idea to business idea to business idea, because for me, I was just trying to figure it out, hopping from one idea to the next. It was really driving my passion and my mission and my purpose. And that became more of the light energy, because now, you know, after a certain point, you're like, the money doesn't drive you. It just is what it is, right? It's just like, I'm fine. Like I'm not a very materialistic person. I don't really care, you know, about brand names, designer names. The first time I made $1 million, I was driving a $500 car, right? It just doesn't matter. Like, sure, it provides some sort of benefit, more comfort, more value, but after a certain point, that money is not a driver. It's now, what is my purpose? For me, this was like really fun and something that I loved doing, which is why I did it.
Please subscribe to my channel if you have not done it yet, and don't forget to click the notification button. I hope you guys learned and enjoyed this video. Thank you, and have a great day.